Today, Paul talks about leaders in the church. And this is a very important subject because we need strong leaders in the church. And he puts forth a list, but I don't think we need to get legalistic with this list. In other words, I don't think that these are boxes to check. I think rather they're examples or a sampler of leadership qualities. The first of which is that leaders ought to have a solid home life. And it's because at home is where we first learn the skills and how to hone those skills to be able to have authority, but to use that authority to serve. Secondly, Paul says that leaders should have personal integrity, that their personal life matters. They should have the discipline put forth in their life to be able to live a life that is wholly dedicated to God. Thirdly, leaders ought to just be kind to people. How they treat people matters. And then fourthly, leaders ought to know the Bible well enough to be able to lead someone to Christ or to answer basic questions. And I think that this is a real need in the body of Christ today. And the reason is because in America, we've created a system where there are certain qualities that people possess that actually promote them within that system. And it's a system uniquely formed in America in the 20th century. For instance, in the first probably 3 centuries of the church, the number one quality of a leader is courage. Because the church was often persecuted, and to step into a leadership role meant that you probably have lessened your lifespan by several years because of that persecution. This happened for 3 centuries, and then from probably the conversion of Constantine up until the Enlightenment. It seems that piety was one of the main qualities. And so courage and piety, well, those are 2 pretty good qualities. From the Enlightenment and the Protestant Reformation forward, it seems that the quality of leadership should include education. Someone who has put forth the necessary time to prepare them for ministry and has been formally educated for the job of leading the church. And this is why in America, so many of our colleges, especially all of the Ivy League colleges, were actually created first for the training of church leaders. And so education became a quality. And, well, courage and piety and education, that's pretty good. But the 20th century brought something different. Because of the Industrial Revolution, people had excess income. This is something that had never happened before in human history, where people had disposable income for things like entertainment. And so people had income to go to circuses and carnivals. And then when movies were created, they had money to go to cinema. Then, of course, there was radio and television that put entertainment right in our homes. And what happened was a transition in the church, specifically in America in the 20th century. And that is that we created a system that no longer needed courage to be promoted within it. You no longer really needed piety or education even. What you needed was talent. And so talent became the primary means by which people found success in the church in America. And this has been the way that we have progressed, definitely for half a century at least. And because of that, the leadership qualities that Paul mentions here have become, unfortunately, secondary. You know, things like having a home life, really don't matter if someone has talent. They can sing, they can lead worship, they can preach, they can entertain us. They're amusing, they're entertaining. And so when talent becomes the primary quality of a leader that really dictates their promotion, courage and piety and education really doesn't mean much as long as they have talent. And unfortunately, this has created in America the situation we find ourselves in now, where many of the leaders in America are being found out. Just this weekend, I saw, unfortunately, another situation where there was a leader that fell into sin. And, well, these qualities that Paul mentions about a solid home life, personal integrity, treating people kindly, and really knowing the gospel, being able to lead someone to Christ and answer biblical questions, that takes a back seat to someone that can really entertain us with a little bit of humor and maybe some jokes and kind of anecdotes and stories that we enjoy. And unfortunately, what we've done in America is created a system whereby the main means of promotion is talent. And because of that, we are now paying the price. The same sins that haunt Hollywood now have found their way in the church. And that is unfortunate, but it's something that I believe that God is changing. I believe we are in the midst of a radical shift in America, where leaders have been primarily, I hate to say it this way, but they've been entertainers, narcissists, and psychopaths who create around them a group of little minions that they treat horribly and continue to have a place in the church up until now. But it seems like God is bringing judgment in the house of God where it starts. And that's where judgment begins. And we're seeing it now. So this is a serious passage. This is something we really need to consider. And I am considering it deeply on a personal level. And I think everybody should, including you. Because what we have done is created not disciples, but fans. And people have come to desire sweets instead of meat. And because of that, not only the leaders in the church, but everyone that calls themselves a Christian really needs to evaluate themselves, to really think deeply about why we go to church, what we're looking for in a church, and what it means to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. And I think all of that is being redefined in this hour.